Hi, this is Steve Butts with our review of Deus Ex: Human Revolution. Let's skip the preamble and get right to the point. Deus Ex: Human Revolution is brilliant. If you're at all interested in this game, go get it right now. It will not disappoint you. It's flexible, fascinating, and most importantly of all, just plain fun from start to finish. You can play the game how you want to, and you'll very rarely come up with a solution that doesn't work within the context of the game's rules. Whether you're tossing boxes down the hall to get the attention of patrolling guards, or just moving a refrigerator in front of a door to keep enemies from sneaking up on you, the game encourages and rewards creativity. You can rely on stealth, technology, or guns to get you through the game, but I will say that the combat option is a little too convenient most of the time, and occasionally it's even forced on you. Even if you'd rather try the more indirect options, it's usually easier just to go in and shoot the place up than to skulk around and hack terminals. Still, knowing that you snuck into police headquarters or a gang hideout and got out undetected, that really makes you feel like a super spy. The augmentations are tremendously varied, and the game is long enough to try out a few different styles. When I began, I imagined I would be more of a marksman with a bit of hacking thrown in for good measure. But as I played, I realized hacking could literally open dozens of new doors for me.
Access granted.
And that the strength upgrades I took to give myself more inventory space, well, they'd let me move dumpsters and vending machines around to reach inaccessible areas. By the end of the game, I had tried lots of different styles, and my character was drastically different than I imagined he'd be when I first looked at the augmentation tree.
Jensen, time to hightail it back to Detroit. Get in.
The flexibility even extends to the game's moral system. Now, it's not at all like Knights of the Old Republic or Fable, where you have this one obvious good choice and this one obvious bad choice. Instead, you're presented with complex situations and asked to consider how your character would react to them. At one point, I was in a position to try to talk someone out of committing suicide, and it was much more engaging than the game's actual boss fights. I also had a public argument with the leader of an anti-augmentation movement, and it was an amazing moment of refreshing gameplay, and not at all something I expected when I started the game.
And now anti-augmentation terrorist groups are making headlines every day. You always say Humanity Front isn't violent. But look outside. We're seeing proof that it is.
The violence is a terrible thing.
The game's also great about telling story through details in the environment. When I got to Jensen's apartment for the first time, I didn't need any inner monologue or voiceover to tell me that this guy's life had become a wreck since the tragedy that occurred at the beginning of the game. Later, when I got to the office building in Montreal, I saw a couple of emails warning the staff that something big was about to go down and urging them to leave the office. But what was more effective was to look around the office and see the lights on and coffee and papers spilled all over the desks, and to hear phones ringing unanswered. Just being able to see the mood and background of the story in these moments is worth far more than the game's sometimes overwrought cutscenes. Deus Ex does have a couple of missteps. The boss fights in the game are just outdated. Circle strafing around pillars while firing rockets at a super soldier, it feels antiquated next to everything else the game is doing. There are also some story elements that don't quite ring true, even if you can get past this business about shadowy global conspiracies. But that said, these are minor quibbles in an otherwise brilliant game. If you like games, you should play Deus Ex: Human Revolution. It's not only a worthy sequel to one of the most celebrated PC games of all time, but it's also one of the most thoughtful and engrossing games I've played all year.
You'll never find them!
I'll never stop looking.